I spoke to a AAA dev leaker. It was eye-opening. In the bio says, or the description says, I had a privilege of speaking to a Call of Duty developer and to ask them 13 questions so long as I protected their identity. That's fucking cool, because sometimes a lot of like stuff is shrouded in mystery. But if you want to submit one of these to me, it's in the Hot Topics channel on my Discord. So yeah, send it over there. But let's take a look.
I was contacted by a senior backend developer for Call of Duty through private messages. After confirming their identity and thanking them for reaching out, I asked if they would be willing to answer 10 questions about the gaming industry in Black Ops 6. They agreed, but under one condition: I must keep who they are anonymous.
Yeah, that's smart. I mean, obviously they don't want to get fired, and they probably would get fired for talking about some of this stuff. And like a lot of that industry is like very interconnected. So if you fuck up with one company, you're probably cooked like almost everywhere.
And their job history obfuscated, as they would undoubtedly be tracked down and fired if any identifiable information was released. This is their story.
I don't know why. I know it's like bad to like probably think this, but I like these kind of videos because it's almost like, ooh, drama. Like I'm getting to learn something I'm not supposed to. Ooh.
This dev is a long-time developer for the Call of Duty franchise. They started small and worked their way up to their position they hold today after many years of working on other games and other projects.
I feel like that's already kind of a dangerous amount of information to have been given right there. Like I wouldn't have given dates. Because like, okay, let's say there's 1,000 people working on Call of Duty, right? How many of them started in 2014 and worked till 2024, right? Like that's gotta be maybe 10%, specifically 2014, unless this is big brained and it's not actually 2014. It could be like 2016 or 2012, and they're fibbing the numbers a little bit.
Many of which you will know, and some of which you probably won't. It's important to understand that this dev is a back-end dev, meaning they don't handle design directly, but instead keep the engine running under the hood. While I can't reveal specifics of their resume, I can assure you it's vast. They have been in the business of developing multi-million-dollar games since before I was born. Due to their history with the Call of Duty franchise, the very first question I think I should ask was, why is the game so big? This is a common question for anyone looking to get
My question starts at 4 due to 1 and 3 being redacted. Oh.
Get into the Call of Duty franchise, being that every other...
That part gives away a lot too, LOL. Yeah, no shit. I feel like, I'm not gonna lie, you know, there's always a risk if you're a developer and you do something like this for a game. There's always a risk. There's a big risk in doing something like this. Like, first off, what's the point, right? Like, you kind of put yourself in jeopardy for like what reason? Unless you like really like them or you have like a prior friendship or history or whatever. But that was a lot of info right there.
Game I play,
you know,
typically
there's not 10,000 people working on Call of Duty.
Requires half the amount of resources. I figured it would be best
unless they are doing incorrect info. That is always a possibility.
An answer directly from the ones making it, rather than the speculations I typically see online. And they replied, it can be small, but it's a lot of content. It's why we introduced the packaging system after Modern Warfare 2019, to let players pick and choose what they wanted to keep. You don't have to install everything. Right now, I'm playing the campaign, and that's only about 11 gigabytes last I checked. Then I'll start playing multiplayer, so I'll uninstall the single player and check multiplayer and then install that. There's all
the campaign of Call of Duty is 11 gigabytes and the rest is 280.
A core component that is shared between the two. Everything is modular on purpose to let the players choose. Also, 4K textures take a ton of space, a lot more than folks think. We are limited severely with the compression because of access speed. We could compress it more, but that would add more CPU demand during streaming, and everything is in-game streamed. You are always reading from disk to memory. Hope you can already get a feel of the type of person this is. They are a bubbly and energetic and genuinely passionate person about making games. Anyone who's been in the industry this long with the prevalence of problems like layoffs and crunch time must absolutely love what they do,
yeah, true. I mean, most people who work on games are like that, right? And it's always really sad. And it's why I always, whenever I do like Overwatch stuff specifically, I always kind of like go the extra mile when people like get really mad at like developers and stuff. I'm like, you guys you're being idiots. You're getting mad at the wrong person. You're mad at the delivery guy, not the guy who like the restaurant fucked up your food. The delivery guy just showed up with it. It's not his fault. Stop yelling at the delivery guy. You know what I mean? I don't know. I feel like people jump to conclusions a lot of times. It's like, oh, they don't care, or oh, they're stupid, and it's like, no, that's not actually true. So a lot of times, like, corporate decisions are kind of terrible.
I believe comes through in their answer. So
or it's just maximize profits.
I proceeded with a question that I had as a YouTuber. Do game devs take feedback from content creators? If so, how much? What do you use to prioritize updates and patches?
So the smart answer would be to say partially, and then you list all your other places you take stuff from, like other community feedback, whether it's surveys, whether it's data from the game, whether it's social media or forums or whatever. That is the true, smart, good answer that I've always heard. So I wonder if it's going to mirror that.
This is something I saw parroted often back in the Destiny community. While I knew it wasn't true as many disgruntled comments would claim it to be, I was curious if the developers had
a combination
any
of
place
things
for feedback such as ours. Interestingly, they replied with, everything is double-checked with numbers. We gather a crap ton of statistics at all times, anonymized. Data collection is an important thing in game dev, and we've got millions of players with a billion different PC configurations. Content creators sound the alarms. We check what alarm is triggered afterwards to see if it needs a better look taken at it. It's what the community managers do.
Oh, wow. That's actually very similar. That's not totally the same, but it is similar. It's like they are the one who sounds the alarm. You know what's funny? I feel like that. It gets tiring, though. I'm actually a little tired of it personally at the moment. I'm a little bit tired of it because I feel like I'm one of the only ones who still really does it these days. Most people feel like they kind of either just like don't say anything because they're tired. They don't want blowback of like, God, it's so ass. Like, it's legitimately so like disingenuous what's happened over time, where it's like, if you talk about stuff too much, they're like, oh my God, you're just complaining. It's like, nah, dude, like, but like the point of complaining about something is to be like, hey, this thing is not fun, or this thing isn't enjoyable, and then it gets fixed. And so I'll bump into that problem before you most of the time, right? Because like you play a ton of hours. That just is like a delayed inert reaction. So like if I bump into something in a week, you'll bump into it in 2 or 3 weeks, right? So me bumping into a week and then being like, yeah, this thing isn't very good or fun, that means they can start working on fixing that problem. By the time you bump into it, it'll be fixed. And it's like basically clearing the way so it keeps going, you know? Followed by comments of go play something else. Yeah, and I mean, speaking in Overwatch land terms, like that's happened to so many people. They just go play other games now. They're like, okay, I'll take your advice. People get upset that like patches don't have enough changes in them, or they were like, oh, there's not enough people playing, or the game feels stale, it's boring, I don't know what's wrong. Well, you forced out all the people who were kind of the ones who had a good idea and a good handle on what's been going on, right? So
this is not the answer I expected. I presumed that creators would have been held to as a equivalent to data at the very least. Whereas in this answer, it seems that the voice of a content creator could potentially cause a priority on an issue in a game, but not on a non-issue. While we can't assume this is the case for all.
Yeah, you can't just brute force anything. You can't just brute force it through. Like, let's say tomorrow I was like, you know what, guys, we need to make 7v7. Period. There is no other option. It is the only thing. And I just only talked about 7v7 for the next 6 months. If they genuinely have data and are like, nah, we're not going to do that, right? It'll never happen. 0% chance. You can't just brute force it. Like, there has to be some validity behind it.
Studios. If a studio as large as Call of Duty does this, I wonder how much
maybe that's
more
a bad example,
smaller and more personal teams of developers do this too. Indie devs have set this as their standard, of course, but the fact that this is treated with similar cadence among multi-million-dollar studios is eye-opening. My next question pertains to both Call of Duty and live service games as a whole. Is your team familiar with the handful of small bugs in Black Ops 6? How long does it take to patch them, and why? I'm
starting to think the beginning of this video was phrased a lot more like menacingly, because these questions are not that crazy and the answers are not that crazy.
Hear so often about day one patches. I wanted to know more information about the practice, and they replied,
of course they do.
Bug database is even there before launch. We are aware we are launching with bugs. We have to prioritize and release schedules to keep. If something can be done with a quick update, which requires just a restart, we can push it out fast.
Or a hotfix,
if it's a more in-depth update, it can be pushed back to a next major patch.
Yeah, that's not shocking.
I believe many players already assumed. They know about bugs, but
wait, I'm more surprised that do people not know that?
keep up with publications and advertising due dates. They ship them with the bugs, then try to...
Of course, you can't say, okay, Call of Duty comes out November 5th, and then the day before go, guys, there's a bug with a 9mm pistol that if you reload 2 times in a row, you give yourself an extra bullet. Can't launch the game. What do you mean we're not launching the game?
Just watch as many as they can shortly thereafter. Another complaint...
These are softball questions compared to Twitch chat so far!
I often see leveled at
yeah, honestly,
any
they
of the Call of
kind of
Duty
are.
games is how similar they are to each other. So I asked, are weapons, equipment, score streaks, etc. archetypes of previous COD games? It feels like lots of the time, ideas and balance for weapons...
Wait, hang on. Gavin, real off topic. Did you see my... Did you catch my reaction yet? I don't know if you went and check my VOD. The video's not out yet of you and Spylo's interview. I was fucking dying. I was actually losing my shit.
Over. And they replied with, I would assume so. There's only so many guns used in the real world. You try to hit every niche possible without being redundant, as well as look cool. Who doesn't like the MP5 or the good old M4? We'll return to this idea later, but their lack of...
I'll have a video out soon. I wanted to give Spylo some time to upload his own version before I uploaded it mine,
on this answer is attributed to where they sit in the team. They're a back-end developer. Remember, not a front-end designer. They don't make all of these decisions. So my next question, what's the hardest part of your job? This, I hoped, would help better contextualize what a developer may go through on the day-to-day. And they replied with, the hardest part is problem solving. Some stuff needs a lot of refactoring, other things that have been okay for years but no longer respond to the current needs. But teams are accustomed to the old ways. People don't like change unless it works and saves them time. So it's better damn work when you take the old stuff away. With what knowledge I have...
you never really want to take old stuff away at all in a lot of ways because people get really mad. Oh, I wasn't dunking on you. I was actually losing my shit. I was laughing. There was some, oh god, which one was it? There was one you kind of low-key flamed the fuck out of someone. I don't know which one it was. I don't know if it was like it was like why are you think you're the center of the universe? It's like, oh, my Tuesday night Overwatch games are getting rigged by some bot so that I don't rank up for my 50-50 Overwatch. Like, what? If I was that good at my job, why wouldn't I just like rig the stock market and become a millionaire? Like, and then it was like one step further. It was like, yeah, well, but if I do that too, then like the match gets ruined for the 3 other players on your team and also the 5 other people on the other team. So like the 9 people in the game all get their game ruined. So like, why would I do all of that just for you to not rank up? Like, why are you the center of I was fucking losing. I was crying. I was actually dying.
My own degree in computer science, I can share stories as well of government job recruiters seeking people with knowledge of ancient programming languages simply because they were written that way back in the day, and they never were completely upgraded for fear of something breaking. Well,
actually, sometimes if you're talking the government ones, sometimes they're not upgraded because they're more secure. It's actually more secure now. Because like new technology stuff is susceptible to hacking, but like really old technology stuff, it's like, how the fuck do you get in there? You don't have the same connections and shit or something. I'm not a software guy. I'm not a hacker or anything like that. But like at least that's what I've read.
Hopefully, should be obvious.
Has always been the reason why a lot of
your job
advanced systems are kept that way.
We're all nerds, love tech, and it's a pleasure coming to work. For as many horror stories as we hear about working conditions and financial insecurity of even the most experienced developers and designers, this was a very wholesome response. Next, I decided to ask something more open-ended to help get even more perspective to what developers experience versus
We're getting a hardball question
player.
Finally.
I asked, what is something you wish more gamers knew about or had patience for? And interestingly, they replied, oh gosh, so many things. There are so many misconceptions as to what actually entails to make a game. Just the fact that people assume COD is the same every year is so far from the truth, but as long as the gameplay is the same, which it needs to be, that's what sells the game, you don't see it. If we made a new code change that allows your GPU to render 0.5% faster, will you notice? No. But we will, because that saves frame time, that saves CPU power. We can now use somewhere else and keep the game running smoothly. Again,
So actually, you know what's really funny? I remember having a conversation with some people from the Overwatch team a while back. God, I don't remember what context it was under. I hope it was. I'm sure it's fine. It was so fucking long ago. I'm surely the ninjas aren't going to show up at my door. But I remember there was a conversation that was had that like people were really mad about Overwatch 2 and how about the game and how like the whole 0.5 thing, like 1.5, right? There was a question that got posed and it was like, what do you want different? Like, what do you expect to be different about Overwatch? And I remember being like, oh shit, what is the answer to that question? You know what I mean? It was like, you want the game to play completely differently? Or do you want it to still be Overwatch with different stuff to it? And it was like, wait, that's a good point. You know, because like all the people that were arguing like 6v6 or Overwatch 1 is better, right? They're like, oh, it's the same game. It's like, well, yeah, it is the same game. Did you want a different game entirely? And it's like, now obviously this is like the PvE stuff you could talk about, right? But like, it was like, you're right. Like people want that game. That's what they wanted, but they expect it to be somehow a better experience. It's like, huh, that actually makes a lot of sense. It's so simple, but you didn't think about it that way. I think this is a very similar answer from the Call of Duty side, where it's like, yeah, people want to play Call of Duty because it's Call of Duty. If you could radically change the way Call of Duty was, Advanced Warfare, people won't like it.
And their bright personality showed through here with this answer, which I love. I hope one day we can return to this question because I feel like there's so much more to learn about this idea. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss that. But next up, my question was, sometimes there is backlash from gamers to devs. How does dev teams handle issues with PR, or is that a separate group?
Oh, finally.
That's
a good one.
Was actually asked by my brother, and I felt it was a pretty good question.
It's a great question.
Replied, we are shielded by our community managers, thankfully.
It's scary that I know the answer to all of these questions. Like, I know I haven't been saying them all out loud, but like from the beginning, as it moved on, I know every answer to these questions. It's fucking terrifying, but it's also a good thing. That just means that over the years, they've just, in my experience with Overwatch stuff, they've been super open and they tell us stuff and they're very honest. And it's like, this is a completely different game and they still share a similar sentiment and they're doing it all anonymously. So it's like not even the corporate, like, oh, gotta hide behind the corporate sign. You know what I mean?
I got my share of death threats on Twitter by saying something and it got taken out of context and then put into articles within days. Not a fun feeling. They filter it out for design teams and those that make those final decisions. It's awful that anyone could ever be in a position to receive such backlash, if we're being charitable to call it that, while they're trying to do their best. I firmly believe that the relationship should be better between both players and devs. Obviously, we should hold each other accountable for the work that we do or the product that we're purchasing.
It's fine to criticize. Basically, what I've always heard is like, criticize the work. Criticizing the work is always acceptable. No one will ever get mad if you criticize the work. If you criticize the person, and you attack the person for the work, that's where you cross the line.
But situations like these understandably spoil any motivation for devs to open up like this. But let's continue. Is there anything you're worried about in the future of the gaming industry? Anything you're excited for?
That's actually an interesting one. I don't know the answer to this one. My gut says AI. My gut says radical monetization. My gut says just like everybody just circling the same ideas.
Layoffs. Always.
Oh my God, true.
We're being treated as disposable across the industry, and it has to stop. Thankfully.
Yeah, okay. See, I'm thinking more of like ideology. This is a real answer.
Efforts are bigger than ever. We came from Destiny hot off the heels of the mass layoffs post the final shape. It's difficult to put myself in this person's shoes for something like this. The stress of the average job is already enough, but I can't imagine it with the concerningly growing trend of layoffs within the game development industry. My last question I felt should be aimed at the top of the AAA food chain. So I asked, how much do execs have in the individual components of games? And their reply was not what I expected. That's a tough one for me, as I've seen it every which way, depending on the demand that's made.
True.
This to me paints a picture that a bad game isn't always the fault of the higher ups. But if a higher up or producer or executive does get overly involved in the game flops, it was quite possibly more their fault than not. But take all of my interpretations with a grain of salt. Obviously, I'm having to sort of read between the lines here, as the information that I'm relaying to you is purely through text. Leave a like and subscribe if you have any questions you feel I should ask.
Okay.
Thank you so much for this anonymous dev for providing me such incredible insights. This was a huge deal for me. I really enjoyed this. Bless your faces, and deuces.
Good video. Good video. Honestly, it's funny to me. I wasn't really that crazy, but maybe realizing that we just got it really good with like communication and whatnot. Because a lot of that is just stuff that I've known. Except the layoff one hit kind of hard. That one makes sense. It's like, damn, bro, that's real. That's so real.